All right, guys, welcome back. We're doing the instructor training course portion of the presentations. And as we know through this process, we're going to need to do about 12 total presentations to get the feeling of this. The value to you of going through and doing these key presentations, it gives you the ability and the practice of how to build a correct ITC presentation for not only for open water teaching, but through the rest of your teaching career, whether it be open water, science diving, whatever course you're teaching. This is the standard and the dynamic of how SSI would like it taught. And so practicing and putting these presentations together, it starts giving you that key piece of how to build a presentation that measures up to what SSI is asking for. At this level of the game, overall, the nice thing is your minimum score on this out of 54 is 36 points. So it gets you that idea of beginning portion of this. So I encourage you guys as you go through this to really pay attention and to the scoring evaluation of what it takes to get a better score, because the scoring and the evaluation system doesn't change as we go through this process at all. It's the same presentation score. It's the same objectives. It's the same everything that you need to be able to do, but your margin for error becomes less and less and less the higher you move up the chain. So when you move up from this point, the next level is AIT, and that's a 45. And then finally, when you get to instructor trainer, where I'm at, I have to be able to score a 50 out of 54 on this as well through the consistently. So the good news is it's definitely not rocket science. We talked a lot about that. There's a lot of, in my mind, there's an easy 18 points on this. Slam, bam, thank you, ma'am, no big deal. And if you add a few more basics into this, getting the 36 is really not hard. So 50% of your score is, in my opinion, almost a gimme. Just remembering some basic stuff. So what we've done is we've gone through and we've chosen that Nikki will go first this evening. She's going to be doing section 2 of the open water manual of the concept of buoyancy. And then Brent will go after that, and we'll make that decision which he's going to do as well. So your rules of engagement for today is I'm going to be scoring you, and whoever's not giving a presentation, make sure you please have the scoring form up as well as the criteria so we can go through and understand what it takes to move to that level or how you earned a score. Through this process, I've worked really, really hard never to say I gave you or you got any particular score. Every time we talk about a score, I will frame it in the context of you earned a 3, you earned a 2. And we'll go back to the scoring criteria. We'll look at that together to make sure that the scoring criteria supports whatever you earned as well. Now, I encourage you strongly to be very familiar with that, because while I'd love to think that I'm perfect, Nikki will tell you very clearly that I am not. And so understanding what the criteria is on that can be very, very important as well. And sometimes we as evaluators can certainly get that wrong. So being very familiar with the rules of engagement, I like to think about it like being a courtroom lawyer. We've all seen the Law and Order specials where she wasn't 18. I could show you the birth certificate, so she couldn't make the legal decision, and the whole case is thrown out, right? So if you know the rules of engagement and how to play the game and all the rules, you have a lot higher likelihood of getting that high score that you want. Overall, in my opinion, this is the easiest of the 4 areas that you'll be evaluated on for your instructor evaluation. It's definitely not complicated, and it's all very straightforward. None of it's anything that I've made up or that I've added emotional value to. It's all very clearly in the book. It's on the form. You guys all have access to all the rules of the game. So understanding how to play the game should be pretty simple. And it's only 7 pages of rules, and they're big letters. It's not like playing Monopoly, right? Nikki, your time limit on this is going to be 8 to 12 minutes as well. So that is our rules of engagement. I'm looking forward to your presentation. I've seen ones out of you before that were fantastic. I'm ready whenever you are. I have a time on deck of 6:16. So we'll say 6:17 as well. So it gives you that time. Whatever you're ready, go for it.
Well, I gotta fix my screen share because for whatever reason it redid my screen share. There we go. Here.
No worries. We'll put that back up. I still have 6:16, so I put 6:17 as your starting point.
Perfect. So, hi, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Nikki Hadfield. I'm an instructor candidate for open water, and tonight we are going to be discussing the concepts of buoyancy. So I will say that this is probably something that every diver kind of struggles with, and a new diver, and certainly I've been there, especially as I've added new or different gear to my diving kit. And anyways, so our objective tonight is going to be able to list the individual components of the buoyancy system and describe the basic functions of each of those components. And then we're also going to be able to list the types of buoyancy and provide examples of each type as it relates to an object immersed in a liquid. Wait just a minute. Page. How do you move? So the value of this topic to us is that with a well-fitted buoyancy compensator, this will keep a diver in neutral and during a dive and be able to dive comfortably floating along the surface before and after the dive. And then by determining how much weight is enough, we can maintain proper buoyancy throughout a dive. So those are kind of key items: the fit of our buoyancy compensator and staying neutral, and then being properly weighted. So our main points tonight: buoyancy control equipment, Boyle's law, Archimedes principle, and then types of buoyancy. So before we get too far into our buoyancy system, Brent, what do you know about buoyancy compensators? What's their purpose, or what do you think their purpose could be?
Their purpose is to help you achieve neutral buoyancy when you're diving and positive buoyancy when you want it.
Absolutely. So just like you said, the part of their purpose is that they can help us control our buoyancy. Both on the surface, they act like a life jacket. And then as we descend and hover along the bottom, because it seems like that's where all the cool stuff is, it's there to be able to help us find that neutral buoyancy position. So buoyancy compensators are made out of a lot of different materials. They can be made out of nylon. Some of them have rubber bladders. You can see, like on this one at the shoulders up here, we've got metal D-rings. A lot of times they have plastic buckles, and there's a lot of different things going on within them. So I kind of like this image because this is one example of a buoyancy compensator, similar to the ones that we have in the shop, but there's a variety of them. But there are some features that are all kind of similar. So some of the things that are different about them is that there's a few that have back inflation. This one is not. Some of them have a wraparound bladder, which is what the style that this one is. A lot of them have some sort of cummerbund, so they secure across our belly. And then they all have this low pressure inflator. So Brent, what do you think the purpose of that low pressure inflator could be?
To add air or dump air.
Exactly. As we start to descend, it's got that button on the top that we hold up above our shoulder and we release the air from it. So some of those, and most of the ones that I've used and have been familiar with, it's probably pretty old if we find one that doesn't have a power inflator. That's pretty common anymore, is that they connect into the tank on our back, right? And they also have a button to be able to allow us, like you said, to be able to fill it with air. So a lot of new buoyancy compensators too have what is numbered as number 5 down here. They have an integrated weight pocket. And that's going to be, we're going to talk about it more in a couple of slides, I believe. So hang on to that one. So by adding air through the low pressure inflator, we can descend, we can add a little bit of air to be able to find the neutral position, or we can use it to also ascend from a dive. So the value of having our own buoyancy compensators is that we can snug them and fit them to us, right? And as we have our own, acquire our own gear, we become more comfortable both as we dive and finding that neutral position, or even on the surface. So this is important to us, right? Being comfortable during the dive, having familiarity with our own equipment. So one of the things that I, and we can do this a little later if we're in the shop, I would say, like, right, meeting together, is we could, or meet up and over at the shop, we could talk about a few of the pros and cons with different buoyancy compensators and why you might choose one over another. And I would advocate for it. When I bought my first buoyancy compensator, I started diving more, and the more I used it, the more I was familiar with it, and the more comfortable I became in the water, and the easier it was for me to be able to find that neutral buoyancy position. So we talked about some different styles of weights or air systems, or how the buoyancy compensator holds air, and this is just kind of depicting that, right? So we have a wraparound style that you can see has air both in the back and on the sides of us as it comes around. This one in the center is a back inflate only. So it's got a bladder that kind of wraps around the tank and holds air. Or we've got a jacket style that looks like there's a lot of places for that air to go in and around us. Questions at this point?
No.
Okay. So another key to our buoyancy system is the weight system. What do you think the purpose of adding weight would be?
Help you with the buoyancy.
Absolutely. So there are people who are little rocks, right? And they sink. And then there are people, and I will say that I'm one of them. I tend to be a floater, right? So once we start adding other pieces to our total diving system, right? Adding an exposure suit, adding, as we dive, an empty scuba cylinder that becomes or can become positively buoyant. So part of adding weight to our system is compensating for that, compensating for the buoyancy of our body, compensating for the buoyancy of our exposure suit, compensating as that tank empties for the dive. So types of material that these are we can have lead in a little nylon or fabric bags, or we can have a solid weight. And I've seen them either like in this photo, once again, the integrated weight pockets, or I've seen people use them as a weight belt, and we can certainly go over pros and cons with that. I know Dan Orr likes to be able to use a weight belt because of where it sits and the ease of being able to take it off and drop it if he needs to. So features that you want to look for as you consider buying your own buoyancy compensator is quick release weights. We want something that can be really easy to be able to pull out and to be able to ditch. So as we dive, we want to do a weight check. And if you were to take the perfect buoyancy class, which I would highly suggest, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to start with an empty tank, or a fairly empty tank, so that we can properly weight you towards the end of the dive so that we're compensating for that empty tank. So one of the other things that we want to keep in mind as we acquire our own gear, we want to make sure that we're cleaning and maintaining it. The longer we take care of it and the better we take care of it, the better it's going to take care of us as we dive. So when you have your own buoyancy compensator or BC, you're going to want to make sure that after your dives, you rinse it, especially if you're diving in salt water. You're going to want to rinse the inside of the bladder, and you want to do it all with fresh water and dump it out. We want to store it in a cool, dry place, but we want a little bit of air in there so that over time we don't build up any problems, and the inside of it can dry out as well. So one of the things that the shop can do too is can service our regulators. It can service our buoyancy compensators. It can make sure that all of our dump valves and inflators and everything are working the way that they're supposed to. I want to talk just briefly about Boyle's Law. Brent, what do you remember or know about Boyle's Law?
Well, on the surface where it went atmosphere, down 33 feet we're at 2, 66 is 3, 99 it's 4, and so on and so on.
Yeah,
133.
so Boyle was a really cool scientist back in his day, right? And one of the things that he discovered was that at a constant temperature, as pressure as pressure increases, volume decreases. So just like this slide, we've got the picture of the balloon, right? And like you said, as we descend to that 33 feet or 66 feet or 99 feet, that pressure increases. And you can notice that the volume of that balloon decreases. Why do you think that that might be important to us as we talk about the concept of buoyancy?
Because the deeper you go, the air will become less buoyant because you're getting less volume because it's under pressure. So you have to add it,
Absolutely.
and then inverse coming up.
Yes. So one of the skills that we're going to do is we're going to practice that. We're going to go down to the deep end of the pool. We're going to find that diver position on the bottom of the pool, and then we're going to add little puffs of air, either orally or through the power inflator, to be able to find that position where we start to rise. And just like you said, as we descend and we go past when we go out to open water someday, we descend past that depth of the pool, we'll have to continue to add air. So another concept that I want to talk about just briefly is Archimedes' principle. So Archimedes has said that the weight of an object is displaced, my train of thought just lost. The weight of the object displaces the same amount of water. So you can see here we have two different scuba cylinders. They weigh differently, and you can kind of see through that visual little bubble next to them, right? That as they lighten, they start to displace different amounts of water from that. Once again, why do you think knowing about Archimedes' principle would help us as a diver?
Helps you in your buoyancy.
Absolutely. So like the bullet point on this slide says that one of the things that we need to do is determine the correct amount of weight we have. And that partially depends upon the equipment and configuration that we have, right? So like I said, in the perfect buoyancy class, one of the things that we do is we start with a semi-empty tank. So part of that is that we know that we're going to be more buoyant. We're displacing less water, right, with that. And we're going to have to adjust with more weight to be able to stay down for that point, at that point in our dive, to be able to continue to enjoy what we want to see. So types of buoyancy. We have positive, negative, and neutral. What's positive buoyancy?
It's floating,
Absolutely. So what's negative buoyancy?
sinking,
And our neutral buoyancy?
somewhere in between.
Right. So I love little kids. One of the things that they like to do, right, is go along and pick up rocks and throw them in whatever body of water that they can find. That rock, throwing it in the water, most often is negatively buoyant. Unlike the ice cubes that we put in our soda, right, to keep it cool, those are an example of positive buoyancy, and they're going to float. But where we want to be as a diver is in that neutral buoyancy position. So we kind of want to find that equilibrium between positive and negative, so we can kind of stay where we want to within the world. Some of the benefit to this is that by finding that neutral buoyancy position, we're going to be able to protect the environment. There's a lot of fragile coral in the water, and we have a lot of marine life. Even stuff I've seen in the sands, little creepy crawlies, the garden eels that come up and down and can be 3 feet tall, and then when you come over top of them, all of a sudden they're only 2 inches tall. So as we find that perfect buoyancy in that neutral position, we're going to be in a better place to help protect the environment that we're diving within. And ideally, we want to be in that neutral buoyant position at all times. We want to try to maintain and stay away from the bottom by at least 5 feet and from the marine life, right? By doing that, we're creating a buffer zone between us and them to be able to keep both ourselves safe and them. There's a lot of stuff out there like fire coral that we can touch, and then all of a sudden we've got this burning on our skin and we have things that we have to deal with. The other thing that we're also able to do by having that buoyancy control is we're able to keep our fins slightly above our bodies to avoid kicking up the sand or silt of the reef. One of the things that if we go down and dive in Belmont Hot Springs, you'll notice is that if we don't find that neutral buoyant condition, it's really easy to have the water go from fairly well visibility to being non-existent. So we want to make sure that we're taking care of that. So this is something I talked about a little bit earlier, but one of the classes that we offer beyond open water is perfect buoyancy. This is a great class to help us improve our body positioning for relaxed dive adventures. And by finding that neutral buoyancy position, we'll also reduce our air consumption and increase our bottom times. Plus, we'll be able to learn new skills in a way that protects the environment and work in every diving situation that we're in. Whether we're diving at Ryrie, where we've got this nice kind of gentle slope that we're trying to avoid stirring up so we can continue our dive. So this is a class that I would highly recommend taking. So once again, for tonight, we've talked about buoyancy control equipment. We've talked about buoyancy compensators. We've talked about our weight system. We talked and kind of did an overview of Boyle's Law and Archimedes' principle. And then we talked about the 3 different types of buoyancy. So our objects were to be able to list the individual components of the buoyancy system, describe the basic functions of each component, and then be able to list the 3 types of buoyancy and provide examples of each as they relate to the object immersed in water. And just to kind of bring it all back together, the value of this topic is that as we have that well-footed buoyancy compensator that we've dialed in after we've made our purchase, right? That will help keep us as a diver in a neutral position during the dive and comfortably floating on the surface before and after. And then it will also help us to be able to determine how much weight is needed so that we can maintain that buoyancy throughout our dive. So I thank you all for helping me describe the concept of buoyancy tonight.
Nicely done. Brent, what did you think?
I think it was amazing. And where did you get this presentation thing?
I pulled it together. So I started with the advanced
SSI page in the book or something.
Kind of. So I started by downloading the Advanced Adventure PowerPoint presentation, and it has the slides in there for perfect buoyancy. So I started with some of those, and then I also took snips from the Open Water Diver, and I had the Open Water Diver manual open in the Pro feature so that I could hit some of the topics from it.
Well, I can't find anything on this website because it's just the updated things, and it's pissed me off, so I haven't been back. So this is where I'm at. I love it.
And a lot of times you can go in and download. So go to the download sections as well.
You know, for just as a assistant instructor training course, I hit continue program, and I get section starting with section 7.
Yes.
Where's 1 through 6?
It's in the assistant instructor manual. In the assistant instructor course.
Yeah, you've already done 1 through 6. That's the assistant instructor. You're an instructor, so you're in the instructor trainer course at this point. So you're only worried about section 7 and on, 7 through 10, I believe.
Well,
so that's the class we did last week. We did section 7 of the instructor trainer course as well.
So 1 through 6. So, and I'm not going to find any of these slides in there.
No. So what you want to do is go ahead, Nikki. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say here, let's, can I share my screen again?
You bet.
Oops. I wanted to share a different screen. Come back. I want to share this one. So I went to my SSI on the
You shared the
home.
wrong screen because now you're mirror to mirror.
What?
Look at your share. Your mirror to mirror to mirror.
Well, why did it do that?
Because you're sharing the wrong screen.
No, I'm not. Present. Share screens. Share screen. Screen. I want this one then.
There you go.
And because I'm on your computer, apparently it logged me out. What? It helps if I type things correctly. So I came down over to the downloads. Loading. Benjamin, does yours take this long to load?
No, it does not. There you go. Here.
So I came down and I said I want pegs and PowerPoint. So these are all of the presentations that you can download in PowerPoint. So I downloaded this advanced adventure one last night in Imperial. Apparently they have more that are available in Metric. Look, they've got Open Water Diver in PowerPoint and Metric. How cool is that? So that's where I started.
Okay.
So, and then I also have the PDF version of the Open Water Diver. And so I was able to snip the images from the Open Water Diver one and put it into my one for Perfect Buoyancy.
Nicely done, Nikki.
Thank you.
Now, Brent, as you were going through, did you happen to have a score sheet and score Nikki?
I have one here, but
I apologize. I was picking on him. I was making him the student so you could score me.
Pretty darn good. Yep.
Okay, so the question is where would you score her? Where did you score her? And
somewhere
what could she
around
approve?
95.
95 out of 54. That'll be pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Woohoo! I passed.
That's right.
Absolutely. So, Nikki, just to begin, as always on my presentations, that was an easy pass. So as we go through that process, introduction is our first section. Define objective in measurable terms. You used a slide, but you expounded upon that, and you added, you will be able to do this, right? And that's our measurable. So we need to make sure we're hitting, at the end of this, you'll be able to do this. You'll be able to pick up this glasses case and put it down. Whatever it is, you'll be able to accomplish this. And you did a very nice job. You expanded upon the slides and utilized those to keep you on point. But you expanded upon it and told me that this is what I'm going to be able to do at the end of this. You explained the value of the topic very quickly and easily, and gave me clear main points of outline. So very simple. Good job on that. Knowledge and skill, practical application of the knowledge. Absolutely. And you told some stories in there, which makes it helpful. Equipment sales and counseling and motivation to purchase. Here's where I scored you a 2 on, or where you earned a 2 on that. And so if we go over to that area, let's just scroll down to that, and let me make it a little bigger so we can read through it. The candidate should show students why equipment ownership is vital to their long-term diving commitment and how ownership increases their comfort and confidence. And you absolutely hit that portion. Kennedy gave specific examples of equipment use that related to the topic and delivered a clear value and motivate to purchase. Where you missed it for me was the motivate to purchase, because it wasn't a specific example of equipment and enough. And so as we talk about this, I particularly like the Rogue BC. I've dove it for years, or the ST Elite 35, right? Need to make it a very specific, here's the gear, and on a coaching point on that as well, it doesn't mark you down, but always make sure that whatever gear we put up on, the shop can sell. That was a SCUBA Pro BC.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure to put that on. So I scored you, so you earned a 2 on that, and the candidate gave specific examples of equipment use that related to the topic. Absolutely. So that's why you earned a 2 in that, is you gave specific examples, but there it didn't give me a clear value and motivate to purchase this piece of equipment purchase, right? It was, okay, I should get a BC, but which one, how, what, why? So make sure you're very specific in what it is. We carry this in the shop, and we have a special on this on the Rogue BC with the student discount of whatever it is, right? Whatever. So just be very specific. But I mean, overall, that was fantastic. There's still promoted continuing education or local dive travel, and you also earned a 2 in that category, and here's why. Experience promoted continuing education or local dive travel. And I loved what you did. You came almost there, but missed it by the candidates should introduce students to continuing education programs or local dive travel. And remember, I say with or, do that as an and created a value that continuing education and local dive travel will increase their knowledge and enjoyment. So to earn a 3 in that, candidate introduced and created value for the specific subject. You did that. Continuing education program or local dive travel opportunities, and identified a clear pathway to continue their education experience. So what was your clear pathway for me to take perfect buoyancy?
Well, I think that the problem is that, and I'm not disagreeing with you because I totally and completely, yes, deserve a 2 in that category. But I think that the problem that we have in the shop is that we don't have a regular set schedule and saying, okay, once a month we're going to offer perfect buoyancy. Once a month we're going to offer, or every 2 months we're going to offer diver stress and rescue or whatever, right? So it's hard to be able to say, okay, we're going to offer a perfect buoyancy class on Friday at 6 p.m. Come sign up for it, because there wasn't a specific date and time associated with it. I would completely agree it didn't get a 3. But with the loose schedule that we have of, as students show or express an interest in specialties, then we kind of look at the schedule and what's available and seem to book things around them. It's hard to then make that specific. However, for the future, that will be noted and incorporated.
Absolutely. So my suggestion on that would be, just because you don't have a scheduled class doesn't mean we've got a class of 4 people. Now, who would like to go ahead and sign up for perfect buoyancy? If I get at least 2 students together, we'll start that next week, or around your schedule. Who's up for that? Because that's an amazing course that we should take. Or as soon as we get done with our open water on Sunday, we can go ahead and get that scheduled for you next Thursday. We'll just check the schedule to make sure it's good. So I think that's one of the challenges a lot of instructors have, and that I have a hard time, is just because there's not one on the schedule doesn't mean you can't create one. And as you both have seen, Brett, probably you a little bit less than Nikki, but overall I teach 4 to 1 to 4.2, 4.3 to 1 specialties, and that's exactly how I do it. Is fantastic. I've got the other courses I would take. Let's go ahead and get you signed up for this. Who's interested in this? Let's get that taken care of for you, so we get a clear path that, or I'll communicate with you later and we'll get that scheduled for you so you're taken care of. And so just because there's not a clear pathway doesn't mean you can't create a clear pathway. So, and for the purpose of this class, you can use that, or you can say, hey, I'm okay with you saying, okay, and by the way, we do have a perfect buoyancy class coming up next Thursday. I'd love to have you guys in it. It starts at 6 o'clock. Cost is $150. Right? You can absolutely say that as well for this. But those are 2 pathways that make it really easy. If there's not one that you see, make one, right? If there's not a door, make one. So That would be my encouragement in that. And again, these are minor points overall. Safe and accurate information on the topic. Boom. It's very simple. 3 points on that. Completed informational logical sequence. Good job on following the book. And that's a key point that I see some instructors miss is they get excited. They go too far on the BC, and then and because of Boyle's law, and this helps with Archimedes, and then they've really kind of shot themselves in the foot because nobody knows Archimedes until you introduce Archimedes, right? So you followed the book, you followed the sequence, and you stayed on track, which was great. You right there at the end, you delivered that environmental and a safe diving practice message at the end. That was perfect. It was one that I was wondering if you were going to hit, and you did absolutely. The next section is interactive presentations, effective use of training aids. Let's go to the effective use of training aids under interactive presentation. The candidate should use training aids effectively to reinforce knowledge and understanding. And to get a 3 in this, candidate used more than one training aid effectively. All training aids were related to the topic. And so while we talked about we were going to go to the shop and look at this, we didn't. And you could absolutely say, hey, let's go on a field trip and let's walk to the shop so we can actually see a BC. Or you can pretend on these virtual presentations we're doing, you say, and here's my BC. Well, let's go ahead and pass that around so everybody can feel, see, taste, touch what a BC looks like. Here's what it is, right? So you can introduce a BC, and I would encourage that in their classes with that you have, if you're talking about a BC, have a BC. If you're talking about a mask or a rag or fins, have that information and then give it to the students so they can pass it around and really touch, feel, taste. And make that interactive presentation. So unfortunately, because there was only one training aid, and that was a PowerPoint, and it was used very effectively and very well, it was only one. So candidate used at least one training aid effectively, and or training aids were not specifically related. So in that category, you earned a 2. Motivated the class to participate. What do you think on that, Brett? Did she motivate you to participate?
Yeah, she kept asking me questions. I kind of got annoyed by it.
I stopped counting at 6 questions. But, the thing about this
because I didn't know the answers either, so you know.
I noticed that.
Whatever, you did a great job answering all of the questions.
Yeah, but I got them all wrong. So you know.
No, you didn't. You got them all right.
So here's something to notice in this interactive and presentation. Motivated class to purchase, and then the next one is ask questions to evaluate students' knowledge. Right. And so it's one of those cascading ones that if you don't do one, you don't get the other. But if you motivate the class to participate, and you're asking the questions that develop and create that interactive learning session, you're absolutely going to get a 3 on the next one. Ask questions to evaluate students' knowledge. So it's pretty hard to miss or to get a perfect score on one without getting a perfect score or without getting a 3 on the other one. So if you don't ask questions and you don't involve the class, then it's easy to miss both. And it becomes kind of a twofer overall. But again, Nikki, you got 6 points on that as well. So in that category, out of a possible 9, you got 8. Restated main points, objectives, and value. Again, great job. Accomplish objectives. Brent, did she accomplish the objectives?
Yep.
Absolutely. Accurate speaking terminology, impression, speaking ability, and mannerisms. Anything kind of stand out to there?
There's a lot of ums.
It's pretty darn good.
That was my exact coaching point is if you don't know what you're going to say, stop and breathe instead of using a filler word because it can be distracting. So that is a coaching point.
Well, I'm going to be breathing for about 5 minutes of my 8-minute presentation then. So
there we go. And the last section is effective use of time. So I had you at 10 minutes over.
Oh, I knew it was going to go long. I didn't realize.
That's okay. And this is our first time out the gate. So, but here's the thing that we have to get into and we have to read that I have an issue with in this particular category is candidates should conduct the topic within 20% of the allotted amount of time. But let's go to the scoring sheet. To earn a 3 in this, candidate provided an adequate amount of information to cover the topic within the allotted time. Okay, so no, we didn't earn a 3, but let's look at to get a 2 in that category. Candidate continually repeated themselves or included unnecessary information that caused the presentation to be too long. So are you guilty of that?
Maybe, I guess. Not really. I wouldn't think so. By sticking to the slides, there was nothing that repeated in the slides.
Exactly. So, and the one in that category, candidate did not cover enough information during the presentation to adequately cover the topic, which caused the presentation to be too short. So in this case, reading the criteria, you covered enough information to adequately cover the topic, and it wasn't too short. So can't be a 1. To enter 2, candidate continued to repeat themselves. You didn't repeat yourself. You covered the information. You didn't include unnecessary information that caused the presentation to be too long either. There wasn't long, drawn out, long-winded stories that were boring and that weren't pertinent to that. So
then I guess the question comes back to it and says, okay, if we're asked to do an 8 to 12-minute presentation, was the topic given appropriate to the time length?
Exactly. And this is an easy one to argue with that as well. Is if you get a 2 in that, you go back and ask the evaluator, well, wait a minute. Did I provide unnecessary information that caused the presentation to be too long? Or did I repeat myself throughout this presentation?
Sure. I will say too that last night as I was putting the slide deck together for this, I was concerned because I'm like, I have 16 slides. That means that you spend less than 30 seconds on each slide to be able to fall within the time allotted.
Absolutely. This is, in my opinion, of the evaluation sheet, this is the toughest one for the evaluator to score, and it's the easiest one for the candidate to argue back into a 3. Now,
Sure.
With that said, I feel you earned a 2 based upon the criteria of the objective of this effective use of time. Candidates should conduct the topic within 20% of the allotted amount of time.
Sure,
But
which
again,
means that if you're given a max of 12 minutes, you can only take 14.
Exactly. So it's a tricky one. And I want you guys to be cognizant of this one. This is a tough one for evaluators. And in my opinion, it's an easy one to argue. So if you have to score 34 and you score a 50, don't argue it. Just leave it alone, right? It's not worth the extra point. And because anything above 34 points are pride points, right? You've accomplished the mission, you've accomplished the objective, don't argue with it. But if this evaluator gave you a 33 and you needed a 34, this should be an easy one to argue to get that 34. So it's one of those ones.
I would also say that too, like if you're asking good questions and getting a lot of interaction and feedback from students, right, or the people playing students in this situation, that could kind of throw off your time frame too, right? Like if Brent's answers to some of the questions had been longer, then if I had, kind of scripted out what I was saying and it was down to, the 8 minutes or whatever, and that pushed me over, I would say that would also be a point to argue for class participation and being able to evaluate knowledge is causing the time to extend.
Absolutely.
But that wasn't the case in this one either.
It wasn't the case. No, you did a fine job. I have you earning a 50 based upon the criteria as I read it. Here's the great thing about a 50 is that is an instructor trainer level score. So it's well above what you need. It's 14 points higher than what you need to pass this, and tells me that you're well prepared under this. I still want to see more presentations, obviously, to make sure that you're knowledgeable on all topics needed. But for this, I show a 50 points. So, and even Brent at the beginning, he scored you a 95 out of 54. That's not sure how that works, but I'll go with it as well. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to take a 1 minute bio break, so I'll be right back. All right, guys, back out of our bio break. Thank you so much for returning. I'm excited. So, Brent, again, you're going to be providing us a class 8 to 12 minutes on information system. That's from section 2 of the open water manual for if you want to go back and follow along as well. All right, let me start a fresh page here for notes. And again, I've got a scoring sheet right here, and I will send the scoring sheet over to you guys at the end, so we have a record track to say you started here and ended there. As well as it's also probably pertinent to mention, Nikki has been through this class a few times now, as well, and she was my practice dummy for my AIT, as well as other classes as well. So I've made her present prior to this, so she's done quite a few presentations already, and she has a jump on this of having gone through this with other ITs. She went through this with, I think you went through this with Gary, and I think you went through this with Janine as well. So
Yeah.
So she's done a few presentations. So it's
have an unfair advantage.
She does. So I would like to put that out there that it was good that she went first because she has an advantage of how this looks and works. If you get a chance, go to those links to the YouTube that I gave you, because they have other people's presentations on them as well, so you can kind of see how they work as well, and you'll have an easier time, because now you can see, okay, this is what other people have done. All I have to do is follow the math. So Brent, I have time on deck of 7:05, so I'm going to start your clock at 7:06 to make sure we're fair for you. Whenever you're ready, I'm ready for you.
Okay. I'm Brent, and I will be your instructor today. We will be learning today about the information system. So the reason you need to learn about the information system is it's a very important part of the dive equipment. It is designed to assist you in preparing and following a dive plan. The information system consists of a dive computer, analog instruments, and MySSI logbook. The dive computer, the features, there's a planning mode, there's a dive mode, there's a logbook mode, there's alarms, time to fly, altitude, personal computer integration. So each one of these is a very important part, and we'll go over those. The planning mode, you plan your dive and you dive your plan, and that just is keeps you safe as you dive. Pretty simple, right? The dive mode tracks your dive as you throughout your dive. Depending on your computer, it'll track lots of different things. Gosh. When your computer enters the water, it automatically switches to dive mode, or you can start it. In dive mode, the computer tracks your depth, actual bottom time, and remaining node decompression time for the dive. During ascent, your computer will warn you if you're coming up too quickly. While you're on the surface, the computer will calculate nitrogen release. So when you make your second dive, it is including those calculations for residual nitrogen from the previous dive. Computers that are air integrated will also report dive time remaining based on the amount of air you've got left. Logbook mode. Most computers automatically store your dive statistics. The actual depth, the actual bottom time, the temperature, your dive profile, the graph of how you go up and down throughout your dive. And they will log your dives, 50 to 100 dives, sometimes even more. Some models even show a detailed graph of your dive profile. You can use this feature when inputting your dive information into your logbook, your MySSI logbook. Alarms can be set for various things. They can be adjusted to go off for various events. You've reached your maximum depth, you're ascending too fast, you're reaching your no decompression limit, your battery is low, as well as setting your turn times because you're halfway through your tank and your safety stop. The time to fly is a countdown timer that's based off of your last dive, and it'll alert you to when you can safely fly after you've dove. And many computers will adjust for altitude. Some you have to preset the altitude, some set by themselves. Personal computer integration. So many dive computers can be connected to your personal computer to download and store data. And each one of these has their own version of a dive log, and you can upload that into your SSI, into your dive log on SSI as well. Dive computers are the most efficient way to dive. Therefore, we strongly recommend studying the user manual and in detail when purchasing your dive computer prior to diving. And there are programs out there where you can actually go through the computer as if it were underwater to see what it looks like and see what the features are. There are many computers available for various types of diving. If you plan on taking the SSI's Enriched Air Nitrox specialty, you may want to consider a Nitrox programmable computer. Likewise, if you plan on taking SSI Navigation specialty, maybe you want to look for a computer with an integrated compass. Both of those are options on dive computers that are available at your local dive shop, as well as the Enriched Air Nitrox specialty and the navigation specialty. Analog instruments, as well as the dive computers. So before dive computers, we used analog instruments. They consist of, you've got a submersible pressure gauge, which tells you how much pressure is in the tank. It attaches to the high pressure port of the first stage, and things when you are looking for a pressure gauge, make sure the numbers are large enough you can read them, and maybe glow in the dark, and a scratch resistant lens or impact resistant case. Next up is a depth gauge. Knowing your depth is important to adhering to your dives. You need to plan. You need to know when you've reached your target depth, so you can dive your plan. You need to monitor your current depth to ensure that planning limits are not exceeded. Most analog depth gauges are calibrated at meters seawater, MSW. Okay. And some equipment with maximum depth indicator, which records the deepest point reached during a dive. Some analog depth gauges also have altitude compensation. Digital gauges are more accurate than analog gauges and are standard in all dive computers. A timing device. Now we're getting really old, like no, as old as me. The most prevalent of timing devices is the dive computer, but the dive watch is also an option for your timing device. The watch, of course, tells time, but it also helps a diver keep track of the time elapsed during a dive. A one-way bezel around the perimeter of the watch face is set at the start of your dive to indicate how many minutes of actual dive has been underway. Digital watches show the time and elapsing time automatically with continuous readouts. Or you can use a dive timer, which is a start-stop thing, just like a stopwatch. Or they automatically activate by pressure as you descend and stop when you return to the surface, and this will show your dive time, the time you spent underwater. These devices, they're a lot more prone to human error, and you also definitely have to plan your dive and dive your plan, sticking to the dive tables, where a computer will track your ups and downs and you'll get more dive time and a lot safer. Another instrument in this is the compass. The compass helps you maintain a sense of direction when navigation is not possible due to lack of distance or lack of features underwater. There are several styles of compasses: a side reading compass, a top reading navigational compass, and a digital compass. The side reading compass is designed so that as you hold it out in front of you in your dive position, you can see where you're going, see your heading with through the side of the compass. Top reading navigation compass, more designed for putting on your wrist instead of holding out in front of you, or a console. And your digital compass is integrated in your dive computer and will show your heading there. Different information system configurations. There are many different various styles and colors you can choose from. There are three main configurations you will likely encounter. Number one is the air integrated computer with a compass integrated in that, or a standard or digital compass in addition to that. Some of these are consoles. I've got two of my own here. This is the DSX by Apex. It's got the computer, air integration, the compass, all the bells and whistles, and even a nitrox analyzer. So you can analyze your tank, set it to the tank you're diving, and go dive it. Not a cheap computer, but it'll do everything you need it to. On the other hand, here I've got the D5. You can wear it as a watch every day. There's other computers that have got more options. It's not too big and bulky, as you can see. And it's air integrated, so it's going to track your air. It's got a compass integrated. It does not have a nitrogen and nitrox analyzer, but still a very good computer, entry level, and a watch if you need one too. The next configuration is going to be the non-air integrated computer. With that, because you don't have air integration, you will need an SPG gauge. So you've got your pressure gauge to tell you how much air you have. You've got your computer to track your dive, and possibly a compass so you can use that to know where you're going. All three of these can fit into a console. It's another option. And then the most traditional system configuration is made up of an analog gauges with or without a compass. It'll have a pressure gauge, to tell you how much air you have in your tank, and it'll have a depth gauge. That is the most basic, and these are becoming more rare, just because of the ease and how easy a computer is to use, and the low cost of dive computers, how they've gone lower. So recap on what we've taught today, and haven't asked any questions. Now I've taught you about the information system. Use this system to prepare and follow your dive plan. This will help you track your dives, keep you safe, and help make diving more enjoyable. That's about all I have.
Give me one moment here.
So we didn't go over time. And we got
Did I go over time? I think you were
19 and a half.
14 minutes.
Did I go over?
No, 2 minutes, but that's not, it's okay.
That's kind of a mouthful. Because if I ask questions, that takes more time.
Right? That's what I said. Like, depending upon the topic that you have.
And if I shorten it up, I think I miss key points.
And like I said, I don't have a lot of control over that, unfortunately, but like I said, it's one of those things that it's an easy one to argue if you do go over. It's my belief that most evaluators will give you the benefit of the doubt and pull you to a 3 in that if you do go over, as long as it's dialed in. So let's see. 3.
There, I muted myself. If we could walk into the shop and look at things, that is a big time consumer.
But you have two, those sounded like dive computers, because I saw you lift them up, right? You lifted up the DSX and you lifted up the
D5?
Yeah.
I think D5, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and you talked about both of them. So, and those are both dive computers that the shop can sell. So I would say that, yeah, like, I think you did slightly better than I did in that category, because you had specific equipment that the dive shop could sell that you could be like, hey, I know that we're in a remote setting, but here it is. This is, something that's available at our local dive shop. These were some of the considerations that I used with making this purchase. And yeah, they're not cheap, but they are beneficial to have and to be able to dive with.
All righty. For your first time out, unfortunately, Brent, I don't have you as a pass on this one. I had you as a 34 points, but I also we missed because you one of the criteria is you have to score at least a minimum of 5 points per area, and there I had one area for interactive presentation where I scored. You earned a 2, a 1 in that area. So unfortunately, not hitting a 5 in every category, as well as in the summary, you earned a 2 in that. Or no, I take that back. You got the minimum points of that. In interactive presentation, you earned a 1 in that category. So let's just go through it.
Can I ask a question first?
Sure.
On the valuation criteria, does it tell you that you have to score a minimum of 5 in every category?
Yes. In fact, if you'd like.
Because I pulled it up, but I'm not seeing that it's like a minimum score in the category is 5.
Right up here at the top in the big red letters, minimum passing score for each subsection is 5 points.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Thank you.
Happy to help. Sometimes it's the obvious things that gets us as well.
So if they didn't put it in red, I would have read it.
Exactly, right?
Red situation.
I don't want to read the red stuff. The red stuff's not important.
Well, it doesn't help that I printed my form in black and white, so it's not red with what I was marking.
There you go. Fair enough. So as you go through this, the first coaching point that I would strongly encourage is, I don't think this will be an issue from this point out, now that you've seen and understand and know how to get the information, is I would always use a
I've seen
PowerPoint.
it. I don't understand how to get it.
Okay, we
Yeah,
can
one of
get
my
together
business-
one-on-one. If you have some time tomorrow afternoon, we'll get together at the shop, and I'll pull my laptop out and we'll go through it. And we'll build a. We can do it. We can do is we'll build a presentation together. I have no issues with that at all.
You have kids. Call one of them and be like, I need you to come help me do this. If the phone a friend is absolutely,
You have a grandkid, right? Brent, you have a grandkid, right?
I do.
There you
might be a
go.
little
How old is
young.
he or she?
True.
2? Perfect. Call him over. He'll show you how to use your technology.
Hence the reason why I said kids, because the grandkids.
Yeah, that's what I
are
said.
little
At 2
young.
years old, they're already better at technology than we are. So I get it. It's all good. So if you'd like to sit down together, I'm happy to do that. I've got time this weekend. I've got time this week. You tell me when you want to meet me at the shop, and I'm pretty flexible with my schedule. I'm going diving tomorrow at 1, but other than that, just let me know, and I'll be able to make that happen. And we'll sit down. What we'll do is we'll build a presentation together as well. So utilizing a PowerPoint, and even if you just put it together in paper form and wrote out define objective in measurable terms, right? And so just write objective, measurable terms on that, and wrote something out, or use the thing. But if just having a quick outline of writing it down is fine as well. You just need something to keep you on track, to make sure you don't miss it. And the easiest way to build these is start with the evaluation form and say, okay, my first one is objective. So objective, measurable terms, and then just go to the manual and say, okay, what's my objective today? What are they trying to accomplish? The next one is write down value. And this is why I really like doing it with PowerPoint, because it makes it easy. I make my first slide objective, measurable terms. I go through it, I copy and paste straight from the instructor manual. Here's what I'm trying to accomplish. Here's the value. And then I make my third slide the main points outlined. And if I do that, I can copy and paste those same 3 slides to the end and just change the tense. So at the end of it, I would say, today our our objectives were to learn to do this, Or today we talked about this, and the value to you of this was this. And today's main points were, and boom, easy 18 points. If you just make a slide for each, you only have to make 3 slides and then copy and paste them and just make a minor tweak to the end. The funny thing is, Nikki didn't even do that. She verbalized in past tense, which just absolutely counts. So it was a slam dunk for her. She did the first 3 slides, the last 3 slides were the exact same slides. Now, a pro tip on that as well, and I'm going to reshare my screen here, is if you notice here at the beginning, it's got objective, value, and main points. As we go to the end, it's main point, objective, and value. So if it were me, and I was a pro tip on that, is I would do it in the order the evaluation form says it. And that way it makes it easier on your evaluator. And if you can make it easier on your evaluator, you will not get graded off if you put value first, objectives next, and then main points. But there's a reason they want you to do this in this order as well. Absolutely. But it becomes a coaching point, not a deduction of score. Does that make sense? So make it easier on your evaluator as well as you go through that. And it becomes a slam dunk. That really is a super slam dunk. As we move to Diver Diamond, the knowledge and skill practical application of the knowledge, because it was being read instead of being taught, you earned a 2 in that one. And I think I was being a little generous. So knowledge and skills. Let's see. Let me get over here to introduction. Find that one real quick. Take me a second. Knowledge and skills. The candidate should use real diving examples to relate to the main points of the topic to the skills the students will use during their training and practical diving experience. So to earn a 3 in that, candidate gave practical examples that were specifically related to the main points and the skills the students will use during their training and practical experience. To earn a 2 in that, candidate gave practical examples related to the main product, but at least one of them was negative or inappropriate for the student's training level. And to earn a 1 in that, candidate gave at least one practical example, but none were specifically related to the main points. So it really didn't. So make sure you tell stories to that. That's the big thing is as we teach this, we want to make sure we're, because you've got lots of dives. I mean, you've got 1,000 dives, right? At this point. Yeah. So you're not lacking in experience and cool stories about I used my dive computer on this and it did this and it helped me this way, or I got one for Tanya and it was awesome and she lost it in the ocean, but we found it later and whatever, right? I'm sure you've got all kinds of cool stories about you diving with a computer of some kind. So that it's not hard, but make sure to tell those ones that are specific. Equipment sales and counseling and motivation to purchase. There wasn't a clear you should buy this, and if anything, there was a slight deduction because this one's expensive, right? So as we talk about it, we need to make sure positive. I can't imagine in your business as somebody's talking about, hey, should I get this clear coat over the windshield? Well, no, I wouldn't do it. It's stupid expensive and it doesn't really do anything. I bet you sell a lot that way, right? Well, shoot, if it doesn't do anything, it's really expensive. I should do that one. Let's do 2 of them. Shoot, let's do the whole fleet, right?
So before you move on, Benjamin, can I offer a suggestion?
Absolutely.
I apologize to interrupt you, but so one of the things that I did is when I pulled up the open water diver manual, because that's the sections that we were assigned, or part of the sections that we were assigned, right? Instead of going to what the student can read and see, I went to the pro version because once again, it's just kind of in a bullet point outline. And it gave me kind of those points to say, okay, this is what I need to cover. But it gave me the freedom to be able to then talk to those points and be able to share my own stories and things instead of what was there that the student can already read. That's what I did anyways.
Absolutely. And that's a great point is as you're going to go through this, you can absolutely go there and let me share my screen over that so you can see what she's talking about. Share screen, entire screen. So here's the SSI Pro the manual information systems, and it's got all that information. But if you click on this right up here, the Pro, all of a sudden it gives you all the key points and bullet points for you very quickly and easily. And so it gives you different information as part of that. So there's your Pro point with all everything that they need to know. But here's your key points that you want to make sure you're covering. And so your key points of this are going to be the dive systems, analog instruments, and the MySSI logbook. So we're going to cover these. And then you can go through, and these are your subcategories as well. Features and benefits, things like that. So that's what she's talking about. That overall. So equipment sales and motivated purchase, we talked about that. Promoted continuing education and local dive travel. Again, it wasn't specific of, hey, let's create a way to get you into this. You talked about navigation and you talked about nitrox, and that was great. It would have been hard. Hey, as part of this class, and you and I have both heard Brett say this, and I've said this a million times as well, is as part of this class, if you sign up for nitrox, you get it for only $100. We're going to do this as part of this class. So dive day 2, we're going to be diving nitrox. So we get you guys nitrox certified and open water certified simultaneously. Let's just get you taken care of, right? It's an easy class to sell as part of this as well. So safe and accurate information, I wasn't worried about that. Logical sequence, you followed the book. Delivered an environmental or safe diving practice. Plan your dive your plan. It doesn't take a lot to earn a good score in that, right? And so it's kind of another one of those nice slam dunks of how do I get a perfect score? Dive your plan your dive. And that's being a little bit generous, but it's not too far off either. Effective use of training aids. Make sure you pass them around for review. If you're just, hey, this, it's just a prop at that point. And make sure, hey, and in these presentations like that, you don't actually have to pass it around. Hey, here's a BC. I'm going to pass this around for you to all look at. What do you think? What does that feel like, right? As you go through that, and always be positive about the gear that we talk about. I got dinged one time because I made the joke of, you know what the difference between a dive instructor and a pizza is? A large pizza is? A large pizza will feed a family of 4. So they absolutely at the ITS, they did not like that joke at all. I absolutely got hit. So make sure we're always positive with this. SSI is a very positive company, positive reinforcement as you go through this. I didn't hear any class participation through this or knowledge questions, and those are easy ones to get. And we talked about that with Nikki's. Is if you get one, you usually get the other as well. So they're kind of a slam dunk. If you had done that, this would have been a passing because all you needed was 2 points more to pass. So ask questions. Hey, Nikki, do you use a computer when you dive? No? Okay. Or have you seen me use a computer? What do you think? Do you think a computer might be more accurate than a pencil and paper? No? Yes? Oh, okay. Well, why? Why do you think that? You know, as you kind of go through that, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? So if you just asked a few questions in this would have been a passing score. That would have been a real easy one for you there. Restated the main points, restated the objective. Unfortunately, they got muddled and they weren't a clear objective. You hit the value statement, oddly enough. And I gave you, and you earned you earned a 3 there. Accomplish the objective. You earned a 2 in that. In that the object was to teach the class. I can read the book all I want. And accurate terminology, impression, speaking mannerism. Don't read the book. You know this stuff. Brent, there's no doubt in my mind that you know how to dive and you know how to use a dive computer. I have zero doubt because I know you. But as a class, I encourage you can't read the information. You got to speak to the information. You know this. You know what an SPG is. So speak to what you know. Your job is this. The students can absolutely read the book all day long and be excessively bored with that. Your job is to take that information from the book and make it real to them. Tell stories about it, help them understand why, what, when, where, right? Effective use of time, you earned a 3 in that as well. So overall, this wouldn't have taken much to make it a pass. It really was close. It was all in asking questions. If you just asked a few questions in there, that would have passed that category and it would have gotten that extra 2 points. So in terms of being there, you're really, really close. 2 points away is all you were on this. And they all came from interactive presentation. I also feel strongly that after seeing this and going through this, that your presentation will change dramatically at this point. And again, please, by all means, if you want to meet tomorrow afternoon, I'll grab my laptop when I'm dropping tanks off, and we'll go through and we'll spend an hour and we'll build a presentation together. Because zero problem with that. If you want a different perspective on that, you absolutely ask Caleb or Josh. Both of them score on average now that they're instructors in the 50s. They've both got it down, and they're both very tech savvy as well. But they also work in technology. So, and they're 30 years younger than you and me. So that helps them both too. And Nikki would be happy to sit down as well. So if you want a different perspective on it, you're welcome to. I have no problem bringing. I know they know how to do it. I know they are good at it. So you're welcome to do that.
Hey, and I had to learn something last night. I went downstairs and asked Benjamin, I'm like, I know how to do this at work, but how do I do a copy snip? I'm like, I want to take part of my screen and make a snip of it so that I can use it in the PowerPoint. So I had to learn something new too.
Overall. So for Nikki, Brent, both of you, I want you guys to understand that this is the portion where I teach you guys to get to a certain point. And for me to sign you guys off, I have to feel comfortable that you'll be able to take all these skills and present them to somebody else. And at the evaluation, you guys are not being evaluated. I need to really put a fine point on that. When you go to see Craig for your evaluation, I'm the one that's being evaluated, not you. So to get to that point, I need to make sure that I'm confident that you can easily do this. It's like, Brent, what's the purpose of the Open Water Diver program?
To teach people how to dive.
Yeah, absolutely. To create a self-reliant, autonomous diver that can dive with an equally or more qualified buddy. That's from the book, right? So our goal is to create an autonomous diver that can dive with an equally, so you don't have to dive with them. They can go off and dive with their own buddies as well. So when Caleb's certified, but his girlfriend's getting certified, right? or his wife. So when she goes off, you want to make sure at the end of it that she doesn't have to go with Brett to dive. She can go with Caleb and dive, and they can return safely. I really like the SDI version of this. They say that as an instructor, your goal is to be able to create a diver that you can let dive with your most precious loved one and return both safely. So as I create divers, that's the litmus I use. Is the autonomous diver is kind of that, right? But I want to be able to create a diver that I can send it off to dive with Brittany, my oldest daughter, or Brandon, my oldest son, and they'll be able to come back safely, that nobody's going to get hurt. So that's the litmus I use as you go along. So my goal with you guys is to be able to create you as build an instructor that can do that. That I can confidently say, you can go off and teach. What's your daughter-in-law's name? Or Caleb's girlfriend's name?
Kayla.
Kayla. That you'll be able to teach a class for Kayla, that she'll be able to go off and whether you want Kayla to return or not, I'm sure you want Caleb to return. So you can send them off. That's
who knows? Maybe it's the other way around. Keep Kayla.
Fair enough. But I can create that. I can help you become an instructor that I can confidently say you can teach Kayla enough that her and Caleb can go off and dive and come back safely. So that's it's just so you know. I like to be really transparent. This is my goal set, and this is what we're looking for. But good job, Brent. I mean, for Brent, for a first time out of the gate, without having gone through these classes and trying it, that was a great first showing. We've got room to grow and to learn, but I'll be honest, as an instructor trainer, I'm always looking, how can I grow and what can I do to become better? Because I know I'm not perfect either. I am no Ronnie Kind, he's the international training director for SSI everything, right? He's fantastic. And so I'm not Ronnie Kind, but I also haven't taught 500 ITCs. So, we've all got room to grow, and we're always should be looking, and that should be your goal always with this is, how do I become a better instructor? How do I become more thorough? How do I become more proficient at this? So that's what I'm looking for. And I'm hoping that you look for the same. My goal is to help you become an instructor that's better than I was. So any questions?
Oh.
Brent, what did you learn tonight?
What's that?
What did you learn tonight?
Well, as a teacher, I already knew that though, so there's nothing there.
I highly doubt that, and I disagree. I think that part of it is just finding a comfort in presenting things that you already know. Because I would guess that if we were just to go sit down in the dive shop and say, hey, Brent, tell me about information systems. Tell me about the computers you dive with. Have you ever used an SPG? It would be a much different conversation than kind of the scripted thing that we just had to go through. And you know it all.
Yeah, Brent, I know you well enough. I know you know all this. Now I just need to spit it out and teach me about it. And again, I thought this was a good first showing. I've had other students have come through that weren't where you're at now, so that's good. So do we have room to grow? Absolutely. Is it impossible? Not even close. I mean, you're right there. You missed it by 2 points, and they were an easy 2 points to get. So let's keep working. And then, like I said, figure out a time where you and I can go to sit down at the dive shop, or if you want to come over here, you're welcome to come here too. I'm happy to, or meet you at, I don't know. I don't really particularly like Starbucks, but their muffins aren't too bad. Their hot cocoa is not too bad. So I'll meet you wherever. You tell me. If you don't want to go to the dive shop and deal with that, we'll go wherever. I don't care. I just have a laptop, and I'll tow it along with where.
He can meet you at the glass shop and show Tanya how to do it, and she can help you.
There you go. If you want me to come over to you, I can do that too.
Because we're kind of busy this time of year, and I wouldn't get anything.
With all the road construction and people moving around, I can totally see that this is a busy time of year.
It's a 12-hour day, and I hate it.
So you're already done and exhausted today too. I mean, that's half of it. My day at work was fairly light. I had like 25 drawings that I needed to get through and review for somebody else.
Oh, I get it. I had a heck of a day. My boss was really mean to me and yelled and screamed at me. It was horrible.
You know, she cracked the whip and gave them all kinds of honeydews to go do.
Wow.
It took me like 15 minutes to find the stupid bird feeders at Home Depot today.
And then they were under lock and key, so you had to go get somebody to unlock it.
No, actually, they weren't under lock and key, but they've reduced the size of the section, so I walked past it 3 times. So
that's because they were under lock and key.
Well, guys, so what we covered tonight was the basic starting of the presentation, and you guys started getting an idea of what the evaluation form really. We talked about it the other day, but overall, the secret to the presentation form is to do it. I mean, I can tell you about it all day long, but until you start doing it, it doesn't make a lot of sense, I think, sometimes as well. I would strongly encourage you, Brent, make sure you have a printed off copy of that teaching academic evaluation form and just literally follow it. It literally is a recipe. If you follow it from beginning to end and make sure you have all those checkpoints off, and you'll get a great score every single time. Moving from this point forward is not hard. It's really not. I have a faith that you'll do fantastic on the next one. So, and again, you got my number, right? You can, yeah, text me. If you got some time that's available and you want to be at the dive shop, at the coffee, or at your glass place, or over here, you tell me. I will make it work, and we'll come out and we'll sit down. We'll go through it. I'll even show you how to use Google Sheets. Google Sheets is my favorite. That I use for this, and it's crazy easy. If you have a Gmail account, you get Google Sheets for free. So in fact, I'll even show you. Let's see.
So I'd say because we have 2 Macs, I didn't want to try to figure out Google Sheets. I just used Keynotes on the Mac.
So this is Google Chrome. Once you've signed into Google Chrome, you just pop over here to your little 9 dots, scroll down a little bit, and you just go to slides. And then obviously I use slides a little bit here and there, but I've got one of my presentations is called, and you can see here's the latest presentations I had to give. I gave most of these presentations, or if not all these presentations, for my ITS. So base for presentation is right here. I accidentally saved advanced adventure, but I can change that picture out. There's my objective, my value, and my main points. Then I start off with class questions is right out the gate. And another class question. Continuing education. There's a real world example to remind me. Here's an equipment note. More equipment note. Con Ed. And then other pieces of the presentation that I actually gave. Here's a place to give a story, post-dive experience. My SSI app is a great one and a nice, easy one to use. More questions, and then main points, objectives, and value. So it's everything is in there, and it's super easy to use. As you saw, it's all right here. And so you can pop in and, altitude diving pegs, advanced adventure, squeeze, what makes it effective. Let's see, perfect buoyancy. So here's actual presentations. Section 4 of the academic presentation, purpose and structure. This was a presentation I actually gave through it. Other cool things as you get a little more advanced, what I do is with mine for presentations is I create a value, and then I add evaluation notes as well, so that I can go through and I can speak to different things. So for example,
can you present directly from through Chrome, and can you get the notes for the slides to come up like on a different screen for the presentation?
Absolutely. You just need 2 screens.
Cool.
Absolutely. So here's my adaptive buddy program. So as you go through objectives, there we go. We got down to class question. Why would we want to create various classifications for divers? Here's what I saw. This is what everybody else saw was up here. This is what I see. And what you'll find is on a lot of these, classified dive level 1. I put in the information. Here's all the things. So this, I had a note section, so I didn't have to try and remember all this. And I could just go through it as they came up, pre-dive checks or whatever. I could kind of check it off. If they missed one, then I could add it. So as you can see, I've added that quite a bit, and it helps. Medical history. Here's all the pieces about medical history. So anything in this gray was stuff those are my notes as well that these students didn't need to see, but I wanted to make sure that I had available to me. Osteoporosis is one I wasn't super familiar with. Bladder issues. So we got here's what they saw. This was my question. So you can get pretty advanced with this, and get pretty slick. That's for sure. So, and I'm happy to share and teach you how to do that. That's for sure, Brent. It's available in PowerPoint. That's available in Keynotes, and it's available in Google Slides. Google Slides is free, so I use it when I go to these type of things because it's simple for me. I've always got access to it, and it's ready to go. Easy enough?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's take a look at the calendar real quick, and let's get our next presentations on the books. Let's see. How is next Monday or Tuesday look for you guys?
It looks like either is cleared for us.
Brent, what do you think?
Not real great.
Let's see.
Through the month.
Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday? Which one works best for you then?
Maybe Wednesday.
Wednesday it is. Does this time work? 6 o'clock, or would you like to do a little bit later?
No, it's as good as any.
Okay. If you would, just go ahead and have your other ITC presentation ready.
Yeah.
And if you'd like, sometime between now and then, let's sit down and let's work on them together. And I'd be happy to get you squared away and help with that. It's not a problem at all. I think it's easier than you think, and I think once you get the understanding of how it works, the rest of it's pretty straightforward. So next week you'll be presenting narcosis. That's a fun one. And Nikki, you'll be doing overexpansion injuries. And we'll see what Ken presents. Sound good?
Okay.